Patrick Mahomes just made a terrifying statement about what's really happening inside the Kansas City Chiefs organization. He also states the shocking timeline Mahomes laid out regarding when he will be ready to take a hit in the pocket. Patrick Mahomes doesn't say things like this. For the better part of a decade, his public persona has been unbothered confidence, the kind of quarterback who laughs in the face of a deficit and talks about winning Super Bowls the way most people talk about the weekend. So when he sat down on that Zoom call in January 2026 and started speaking about accountability, stagnation, and the need for new ideas, the NFL world stopped. For the first time since December 10th, Mahomes addressed Chiefs Kingdom, answering questions from local media on a Zoom call. He talked about his recovery from the devastating knee injury and also weighed in on the potential changes to Kansas City's offensive coaching staff. This was not some routine end-of-season press conference. This was Mahomes coming off surgery with the season already in the grave, saying that something about the way this offense has been operating is simply not good enough. While Mahomes didn't endorse any specific candidates for a potential OC change, he did identify traits he would like to see. For me, I just want someone that loves football, that cares about football, that wants to get everything they can to win, to hold people accountable, and then to bring new ideas every single day. Read that again. Hold people accountable. New ideas every single day. From a quarterback who had just watched his team crash out of the playoffs for the first time in his career as a starter. That is not a casual comment from a man who is satisfied with the status quo. He made it clear, I think that's something that we have to continue to do. If you want to continue to be great in this league, you have to continue to evolve and get better and better. That's something we'll try to do here. And then came the part that cut deepest. Mahomes said, I want to get back to that winning culture of being accountable to each other and going out there and playing great football every single day, practice or game. Get back to, not continue, not maintain. Get back to. That is an admission that the winning culture that built this dynasty had, at some point in 2025, gone somewhere it was not supposed to go. The Chiefs' offensive coaching staff was already set for a different look in 2026. And the team had parted ways with wide receivers coach Connor Ambray and running backs coach Todd Pinkston. That is not a small thing. Those are two assistants whose work, directly or indirectly, Mahomes just said was not good enough. When asked about the potential departure of offensive coordinator Matt Nagy, Mahomes wished him well. I love Coach Nagy, Mahomes said. He has done a lot of great things in my career to help me become the quarterback I am. I know that he's looking to take that step and get back to the head coaching spot. I hope he gets another opportunity to do that. That is a diplomatic send-off. It is the professional version of, you've done your part here, and it is time to move on. Because what Mahomes said before and after those words made it clear, the offense needed a reset. Mahomes made it clear that the Chiefs' offense needs less predictability, with more explosiveness and consistency. Predictability. That word directed at one of the most celebrated offensive systems in NFL history, built by Andy Reid, the man widely considered the greatest offensive mind in the modern era. Mahomes is saying the defense knows what is coming. They've been seeing it for years, and that is a problem the Chiefs can no longer afford to ignore. A major concern for Kansas City over the last few seasons has been on the offensive side of the ball. The Chiefs have not found the spark they once had on offense when they were winning Super Bowls and making their Super Bowl runs. That is something they will want to change in order to get back to being a scary offense in this league. The word terrifying in the title of this video is accurate. Not because Mahomes is burning down the building, but because what he said reveals that the team that dominated the NFL for the better part of a decade is no longer the team it used to be. And Mahomes knows it, and he said it out loud. To understand the full weight of what Mahomes said, you have to understand what the 2025 season actually was for the Kansas City Chiefs. Because from the outside, it looked like a stumble. From the inside, it was something far more alarming, a slow, grinding, painful unraveling that exposed structural flaws years in the making. A disastrous 6-11 finish exposed roster flaws, coaching failures, and untimely mistakes from Kansas City's biggest stars, forcing the Chiefs into a critical offseason reset. 6-11. Let that land. A franchise that had been to the AFC Championship game in every single season of Mahomes' career as a starter, that had won 3 Super Bowls, and had become as reliable a postseason fixture as the calendar itself. They went 6-11. It was not just bad. It was historically bad by their standards. The first problem that took the Chiefs off their usual course was their subpar offense. Since Mahomes took over in Kansas City, the Chiefs had been used to being the most dangerous show in football on the offensive side of things. That was far from the case in 2025, as injuries and mistake after mistake loomed over the team all season long. The injury chaos started before the season even had a chance to breathe. They went the first 6 games of the season without their number 1 receiver, Rashee Rice, due to suspension. And matters were only made worse when receiver Xavier Worthy dislocated his shoulder just a few snaps into the season, with his top 2 receivers out or injured to start the year. Mahomes was facing an uphill battle already. But injuries alone do not explain a 6-11 season. What made this collapse so damaging and so revealing was the pattern of mistakes made by the franchise's biggest names in the biggest moments. The Chiefs went 6-11 in 2025, their first playoff miss since 2014. The numbers do not lie. While Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Chris Jones all played well individually at times this season, there were numerous instances in which each made pivotal mistakes that played a key role in losses. Week 1, they lost to the Chargers. Both Kelce and Jones made costly mistakes in the fourth quarter of the season opener. On a late offensive drive, Kelce ran an erroneous route in the red zone, which resulted in an incompletion. Had Kelce run the correct route, he almost certainly would have scored a touchdown. Instead, the Chiefs were forced to settle for a field goal. Week 5 against the Jaguars, Mahomes and Jones each made game-changing mistakes. With the game tied at 14 late in the third quarter, Mahomes had a red zone pass picked off by linebacker Devin Lloyd and returned 99 yards for a pick 6. While Mahomes played well in this game aside from that play, it was a game-changing error. And the deeper you go into the roster, the worse it gets. The Chiefs' primary running back tandem of Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt were both averaging south of 4 yards per rush. While Hunt had been effective in short yardage situations, he lacked the necessary explosiveness to be an every down back. Pacheco was once a quality running back, but had declined significantly since suffering a fractured fibula in early 2024. The numbers behind the offensive decline stretched back even further than 2025 and painted a picture that is hard to dismiss. The Chiefs ranked 18th in scoring offense since 2023, after leading the NFL from 2018 to 2022. They had just 5 30-point games since 2023. After having 45 in the previous 5 years, Mahomes' numbers had begun to look pedestrian since 2023. He was tied for the shortest average throw distance in the league in that span, and had just 11 touchdown passes and 17 interceptions on throws, traveling 10-plus air yards, compared to 69 touchdowns and 27 interceptions prior. This is what Mahomes was reacting to when he sat on that Zoom call and talked about needing new ideas every day. He could feel his own numbers shrinking. He could feel the scheme becoming predictable. The Chiefs had proven this season that they can beat just about anybody when playing their best, but they could lose quite easily when they were not. It was a marked difference from past years when Kansas City could overcome penalties, dropped passes, and other miscues to win anyway. Kansas City let close games slip away, allowing opposing offenses to take leads in the final minutes of several games. The first 6 losses of the season for the Chiefs came by 7 points or less, meaning the defense was just one stop away from a potential win. And then came the special teams collapse on top of everything else. Kicker Harrison Butker uncharacteristically missed several kicks in the first month of the season, with the Chiefs losing 2 games by a total of 9 points. Games they should have won, games they needed to win, gone. Because of a kicker who had been one of the most reliable in the league for years, suddenly missing when it mattered most. It's hard to give just 3 reasons as to why a team can go from playing in the Super Bowl to winning just 6 games the next year. With that said, the Chiefs' peculiar offense, unclutched defense, and a drop in special teams efficiency can reasonably receive blame for how 2025 went. So when Mahomes got on that Zoom call and talked about accountability and new ideas, he wasn't speaking in abstractions. He was speaking about a season in which every pillar of the Chiefs' dynasty had wobbled at the same time, in the same year, and the whole structure had come crashing down. There are moments in sports that function as punctuation marks on entire eras. A missed shot, a dropped pass, a torn ligament. The Kansas City Chiefs had their moment in Week 15 of the 2025 season, and it arrived in the most cinematic and gut-wrenching fashion possible. Patrick Mahomes, the man who had carried this franchise on his back for 8 years, going down on the final drive of a game the Chiefs desperately needed to win. The Chiefs' disastrous 2025 season went from very bad to even worse on that Sunday afternoon in Kansas City. Not only were the three-time defending AFC champions eliminated from postseason contention for the first time since 2014, with their 16-13 loss to the Chargers, but franchise quarterback and perennial NFL MVP Patrick Mahomes also went down with a season-ending knee injury. The sequence of events was almost too cruel to process in real time. With just under 2 minutes to go and the Chiefs down by 3 points, Mahomes rolled to his right to try to keep his team's playoff hopes alive, but was rolled up on by Los Angeles defensive lineman Deshaun Hand. The 30-year-old went to the ground and looked to be in serious pain before eventually being helped off the field. Mahomes suffered the injury during the final drive of the game. After trying to extend a play to his right, he threw the ball away just before his left leg was twisted awkwardly. As he planted his foot and Deshaun Hand brought him down, Mahomes instantly grabbed his left knee in pain as the team's medical staff rushed toward Kansas City's star player. He needed assistance getting to his feet and draped his arms over the shoulders of trainers as he limped to the locker room. The stadium went quiet in the specific way that stadiums go quiet, when everyone watching simultaneously understands that something serious has just happened and that it cannot be undone. Mahomes, who had been dealing with a knee issue the past few weeks, was constantly harassed by Los Angeles' defense before suffering the injury, getting sacked 5 times and sustaining several more hits, with the Chargers' pass rush pressuring him on 48.6% of his dropbacks. The diagnosis, when it came, confirmed the worst. He was diagnosed with a torn ACL, the Chiefs announced, and then the secondary report made it worse. NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reported that Mahomes had also torn the LCL in his left knee, meaning that he actually had 2 ligaments repaired. Per Rappaport, while the additional repair can complicate recovery, it won't necessarily extend his rehab any longer than it would have been with just the ACL. On Monday, the Chiefs said that Mahomes had already undergone his ACL surgery. Patrick Mahomes successfully underwent surgery in Dallas this evening with Dr. Dan Cooper to repair the tear in his left ACL. The team said in a statement, Mahomes will begin his rehab process immediately. Don't know why this had to happen, and not going to lie, it hurts. Mahomes said in a statement posted to X, minutes before the news of his torn ACL was made public. The loss also officially eliminated the Chiefs from postseason contention for the first time in Mahomes' 8 years as a starter, and the first time overall since 2014. Mahomes, a 2-time league MVP and 3-time Super Bowl MVP, had previously made at least the AFC Championship game in each season of his career as starting QB since 2018. 8 years. 8 straight years of at minimum reaching the AFC Championship game. That streak, which had become so consistent it felt almost like gravity, ended on that Sunday afternoon with a defensive lineman rolling onto a quarterback's planted knee on the final drive of a game that was already lost. The standard recovery timeline for a torn ACL surgery is 9 to 12 months, which placed Mahomes' potential return right around the start of the 2026 season at best, with real risk that he might not be available until week 2 or even week 3. Recovery from ACL surgery typically carries a 9-month timeline, which would put Mahomes at a September 15, 2026 return date, right around the week 2 or week 3 mark. Setbacks are of course possible, but there's at least hope that the 3-time Super Bowl champion will be ready for the better part of Kansas City's 2026 campaign. And this is where the full horror of what Mahomes said on that Zoom call begins to crystallize, because he wasn't just talking about offensive inconsistency and needing a new coordinator as an abstract off-season exercise. He was a man fresh off ACL surgery, physically limited, staring at a franchise that had just fallen apart, and choosing to speak very deliberately, very calmly, about the culture and the standards and what needed to change. That is a man who has thought hard about what happened, and he wanted the organization to hear it. Mahomes' words in January 2026 carry so much weight, not just because of who said them, but because of the data sitting behind them. The Chiefs' offensive decline is not a one-season anomaly. It is not simply the product of injuries or bad luck. It is a measurable, multi-year structural erosion that has been building since 2023. And the numbers are damning. The Chiefs ranked 18th in scoring offense from 2023 onward, after leading the NFL from 2018 to 2022. To put that in context, the team went from the unquestioned gold standard of NFL offense to a below-average unit in under 3 seasons. They now have 37 games worth of data indicating that the Chiefs' offense is technically below average. They are 18th in scoring offense in 37 games since 2023. This is almost an unheard of slump for an all-time great quarterback. Looking at the careers of Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, and Peyton Manning, their teams never had a 30-plus game stretch where they ranked in the bottom half of the league in scoring offense. Brady's longest streak was 28 games, near the start of his career, before he became the version of Brady throwing touchdowns to Randy Moss. Manning's longest streak was 21 games in his first 2 seasons, before he became the Manning the league came to know. The Chiefs' 37-game stretch below the median is longer than anything any of those quarterbacks experienced during the primes of their respective dynasties. That is a staggering fact. And it sits at the core of what Mahomes was speaking to when he talked about evolving and bringing new ideas. The clearest symptom of the problem shows up in Mahomes' throwing data. Mahomes' numbers have looked pedestrian since 2023. He is tied for the shortest average throw distance in the league in that span. And he had just 11 touchdown passes and 17 interceptions on throws, traveling 10-plus air yards, versus 69 touchdowns and 27 interceptions prior to that window. His average throw distance has dropped in every season of his career entering 2025. What this tells you is that the Chiefs have been funneling Mahomes into a shorter and shorter passing window for years. He was not given the receiver depth or the schematic aggression to push the ball down the field the way he once did. And when you take a player of his ability and compress what he is asked to do, you do not protect him. You stagnate him. You make the offense easier to game plan for. You give defensive coordinators the exact kind of predictability that Mahomes himself called out. In the running game, the component that any NFL offense needs to remain unpredictable was essentially non-existent. The running back position had been a significant weak spot for Kansas City's offense over the past 2 seasons, and it must be addressed in the offseason. Walker, when he was at Seattle, ranked 3rd among all running backs in explosive run rate. Meanwhile, Kansas City ranked dead last in that department in 2025. Dead last, the worst run game in the entire NFL. In a league where the run game creates play-action opportunities, which creates space in the intermediate passing game, which gives quarterbacks time to throw deep. Dead last. The Chiefs were essentially trying to win every game by throwing the ball on every down, with a compressed passing window against defenses that had 8+ years of Mahomes' film to study. The looming question heading into the offseason was whether Rice, Worthy, and Brown could form the wide receiver trio capable of reviving the Chiefs' offense, or whether they needed to make a more aggressive move. There is also the matter of what the 2025 season revealed about the broader roster construction. The FNIA crew discussed the bad day the Chiefs had and unpacked why the issues plaguing Kansas City wouldn't be a one-year fix. Multiple national analysts made clear that what the Chiefs were experiencing was not a blip. It was a deeper reckoning with the accumulated cost of years of narrow roster building around Mahomes. One CBS Sports analyst, when describing the Chiefs' offseason approach, put it plainly. Even before Patrick Mahomes' injury, it was clear the version of the Chiefs that had won 2 of the past 3 Super Bowls had run its course. That is the context in which Mahomes' comments need to be understood. He was not venting about one bad season. He was speaking from within a franchise that had been quietly declining for 2 years, whose offensive architecture had gone from revolutionary to predictable, and whose running game ranked last in the league. When he said we weren't consistent enough, and that starts with me, he was taking ownership of a problem that everyone in the building already knew existed, and doing so in public, which is a different kind of statement entirely. Here's what the Kansas City Chiefs did after Mahomes spoke. They did not panic. They did not collapse into a rebuild. They went to work, aggressively, deliberately, and with a clear understanding that the window Mahomes gives them is narrow, and the version of him that returns from ACL surgery cannot be asked to carry the same weight as the version that preceded it. The first move was the one that makes every other move possible. By some estimates, the Kansas City Chiefs entered this offseason almost $60 million over the league's salary cap. By the time the league's free agency period began, however, the team had more than sufficient room for aggressive moves. Much of the legwork was done via the seemingly annual restructure of star quarterback Patrick Mahomes' contract, instantly opening almost $44 million in cap space. Mahomes restructured his own contract to save the team money, not the other way around. He reworked his deal to give the front office the flexibility to build a team he had just publicly said needed to be better. That is not a player at war with his organization. That is a player who is invested in the solution. With that space, the Chiefs made their most significant roster move. Kansas City's top free agent acquisition was Kenneth Walker III, who signed a 3-year, $43.05 million contract, with $29.7 million guaranteed. Walker is not just a running back. He is a direct answer to one of the loudest criticisms of the 2025 offense: the complete absence of an explosive ground game. The Chiefs have high expectations for Walker and what he'll bring to the offense after signing with the team in free agency. They rightfully expect the Super Bowl MVP at running back to bring an explosive element to the running game. He had 10 runs of 20-plus yards just a season ago, while Kansas City only had one running back with a 20-plus yard carry in all of 2025. They told me he was texting every time I made a good play. Walker said of Mahomes, "They didn't think I was going to be able to make it to the Chiefs." Mahomes was already recruiting this man before the ink was dry on the contract. That is not the behavior of a quarterback who is detached from what his team needs. They also made the quarterback depth move that the Mahomes injury made necessary. On March 16, the Chiefs traded the New York Jets for quarterback Justin Fields in exchange for a 2027 6th-round pick. Kansas City made moves this offseason to give Mahomes more help, from strengthening the running game to bringing in Justin Fields as a backup. It is not about replacing Mahomes if he's nearly ready to play. The idea is that the Chiefs have built enough depth and flexibility to avoid putting him back on the field before he is fully cleared. And then the coaching staff changed. One candidate for the offensive coordinator position came to mind when seeking accountability: Kansas City's former offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy, who was currently in his first season as the running backs coach for the Chicago Bears. The Chiefs could bring back Bieniemy or someone else to infuse the club with something new on offense. A recent interview with Kay Adams revealed that Patrick Mahomes and Eric Bieniemy are already pushing Kenneth Walker to expand his game. Whatever the precise configuration of the coaching staff looks like, the fingerprints of Mahomes' January comments are all over it. Now the question everyone is watching: when does Mahomes come back? And what does he look like? Chiefs fans got a positive update in late March, as ESPN's Adam Schefter reported that Mahomes was progressing in his rehab and was tracking to be ready for the start of the 2026 campaign. He's already made great progress from that torn ACL injury. He certainly is tracking to be ready for the start of the regular season, Schefter said. Chiefs general manager Brett Veach said Mahomes is way ahead of schedule, but also made it clear that Kansas City will need to be willing to hold him back when he wants to push forward. Patrick Mahomes is expected to be a full participant in the Chiefs' first OTAs, despite still being in the early stages of recovery from surgery. That is a positive sign for Kansas City, but it also means the offense will need to start answering some difficult questions sooner than expected, starting with how it will adapt if Mahomes is present but not yet fully mobile. And that is the real tightrope the Chiefs are walking in 2026. The offense will need to start addressing some tough questions, starting with how it will adjust if Mahomes is present but not yet fully mobile. The answer isn't as simple as same playbook, fewer scrambles. The Chiefs are heading into a season where protecting Mahomes from himself may be as important as protecting him from pass rushers. ACL and LCL recovery is not only about straight-line movement. The hardest pieces for a quarterback are often the lateral resets, pivots, rollouts, and off-platform throws that put stress on the repaired knee. Those are also the plays that have made Mahomes special. So here's the full picture. Mahomes sat down in January of 2026, less than a month removed from surgery, and said the Kansas City Chiefs offense was not consistent enough, that they needed to be held more accountable, that they needed new ideas every single day, and that they needed to get back to the winning culture that defined them. He was not tearing the organization apart. He was not calling out Clark Hunt or Andy Reid by name. He was doing something more precise, and in some ways more telling. He was describing a standard the franchise had slipped away from, in public, with his name and his voice attached to it. The front office heard it, the coaching staff heard it, and the offseason response, the contract restructure, the signing of Walker, the trade for Fields, the coaching changes was the organization's answer. Whether it is enough will be determined on the field in 2026. But what Mahomes said was not nothing. It was a quarterback who has won 3 Super Bowls, who has never missed a playoff in his career until 2025, putting the organization on notice. And if there is any franchise in professional football capable of responding to that kind of pressure from within, it is this one. The terrifying part is not that Mahomes is unhappy. The terrifying part is that he was right.